Ukraine's unexpected and swift incursion into Russia's Kursk region has delivered a shocking blow to the Kremlin, revealing deep vulnerabilities in Russia's defenses. Moscow claims to have thwarted multiple Ukrainian advances, and Kyiv is waiting for Russia's retribution. Here's a report.
Ukraine's audacious thrust into Russia's Kursk region has left Moscow reeling, as Kyiv's forces execute their most ambitious cross-border operation since the war's inception. This unexpected attack has laid bare the chinks in Russia's armor, delivering a stinging rebuke to Russia's claims of military superiority. Reports from the front lines paint a picture of fierce clashes, with Ukrainian troops pushing deeper into Russian territory. Moscow's claims of thwarting multiple Ukrainian attacks. Ukrainian military chief claimed their forces now control approximately 1,000 square kilometers of Russian land. Another striking image are these Ukrainian tanks and military vehicles with white triangle marking, leading to some calling this as the White Triangle invasion. Remember when Russian troops first stormed into Ukraine in February 2022? They carried Z symbols. Russia says that its forces are strengthening defenses and dispatching reinforcements to Kursk, while President Vladimir Putin blamed the West and vowed to throw out the invading forces. While the momentum clearly is with Ukraine, but questions remain about Kyiv's goals.
Apparently, the enemy, with the help of its Western masters, is carrying out their will, and with the hands of Ukrainians, the West is at war with us. So apparently the enemy is striving to improve its negotiating positions in the future.
And how long it intends to hold on to Russian territory, given the supply line and logistical challenges it may face. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Dr. Nigel Gould-Davis is an editor and also strategic survey and senior fellow for Russia and Eurasia. Dr. Nigel is joining us live from London. Dr. Davis, welcome to the show. How has Ukraine's incursions into Russia's Kursk region changed the dynamics of the war?
I think even just a week into this incursion, it has shown a number of significant things about the war. First, that the war remains fundamentally unpredictable. And over the past 2.5 years, we've seen apparently some sort of settling of the fighting, a narrative of how the war is going, settling in, and then suddenly being disrupted by new realities. And this is the latest example. No one predicted that Ukraine, hard-pressed around its second largest city of Kharkiv, could possibly mount such a daring and audacious move. That's the first point. The second is that it demonstrates, again, Ukraine's capacity to achieve strategic surprise. The Kremlin certainly did not see this coming, was totally unprepared for it. And it, again, disrupts assumptions that, in particular, in a war whose air is filled with drones, disrupts the assumption that the battlefield is transparent and it's difficult or impossible to mount anything as surprising as this. The third thing it has done is to take the war to the enemy of Ukraine's, the territory of Ukraine's enemy. Mm-hmm. And one way of bringing out how remarkable this is that now for the first time since 1944, part of Russia's territory is occupied. And now Russia has to think very quickly about how to respond to that and possibly to remove significant forces from its own offensive in eastern Ukraine. So that specific military dynamic could shift as well.
Dr. Davis, let's talk about Russia. Russian president is not pleased at all with Ukraine's actions. In fact, It is being reported that Russia has hit back at Ukrainian forces in Kursk. Putin calls it an intrusion. He even ordered the army to dislodge Ukrainian troops from Kursk region. What sort of impact has this incursion done to Putin? Will he heighten his aggression?
I think at this point, what's interesting is that Putin is keen to downplay publicly the significance of this. You're right to draw attention to his use of language. He has not called it an invasion. He has called it an intrusion. The operation that he has now tried to develop to deal with it is a so-called counter-terrorist operation, not a fully fledged military one. The Kremlin has issued an order to its senior politicians not to speak publicly about this war. The Kremlin is clearly rattled, responding to events, improvising a military response to it. And I think what's even more interesting is that Putin has not tried to appeal to the Russian population and say, look, we are being invaded, you have to mobilize, you have to join up to the military, you have to support this aggressor. He's not doing that. Again, he tries to downplay the significance of this to avoid embarrassment. And the final point I'd make here is about the response of the population itself. So around 10% of the population of Kursk region has been forced to evacuate. And there are Russian journalists who have visited the area, and what they report is a real degree of anger on the part of many of the people who have had to flee, anger not at Ukraine, but at the Kremlin for not having prepared for this, not having protected them effectively.
Dr. Davis, finally and briefly, what was Ukraine's aim in Kursk region? Do you think they have achieved or will achieve it if the offensive persists?
That's a very good question, and the Ukrainians have been quiet about what their ultimate goals are. There may be a number of them. One is to force Russia to divert forces from its offensive in Ukraine and therefore relieve the pressure on Ukraine itself. A second may be to hold the territory that it has, to occupy it for an indefinite period of time, to potentially use it as a bargaining chip in an end of war. Thirdly, we don't yet know how much further Ukrainian forces want to go. They already occupy a gas transit station. There's a nuclear power station, Russia's third largest, just a few kilometers away. So let's see what Ukraine shows us in its actions about what its goals are.
All right, I've been talking to Dr. Nigel Gold Davis, who's an editor and also strategic survey and senior fellow for Russia and Eurasia. Dr. Nigel, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.